I thought the play had a great deal of potential. And then I got in touch with Jackie and asked her if she would feel at all comfortable, interested in working on it some more. And that's like meeting somebody at a party as a cosmetic surgeon and getting in your car. But in any case, Jackie responded to that idea. She's joining us now. She is working on another version of the play that hopefully is something closer to what it is in her own mind and heart, more importantly. And if you don't mind, Jackie, talking just a little bit about the project for us, because I think, again, this is new to so many people here.
Sure. No, I don't mind at all. And I will say that when Chris asked would I be interested in developing further, I said yes, because I'm not happy with the script. So I would love an opportunity to develop it further. That was a true statement. And so the play is set in at Hampton University in the 1840s, see the impact of the war and this Black college is going from an institute into a more liberal arts college and the struggle through that. You have two young artists who are coming to learn what it is to be an artist and what it is to be an artist at a time when African Americans weren't allowed to be anything other than teachers, nurses, and plumbers, etc. So you have an Austrian Jewish professor who's fled the Holocaust. He's chosen Hampton over Harvard, and he's determined to establish an art department. And he's got to fight the college, the institution that's saying, Black people can't be artists, what are you talking about? And he's passionately involved, and you have two working artists at the time who are coming in and saying not only can young African Americans be artists, but they can make critical statements about the world around them that will then help change the world around them. And so that's the story that we're working to tell. And again, this opportunity is to strengthen the play in what is more my voice and vision for what I want the piece to move forward and be. So I feel really fortunate. And I also am really thankful that you're like, I can be here for 10 days instead of, not knowing that this was something you hadn't done before. So I really appreciate that.
No, you know, very often the way we work playwrights fly in for a day, you do a little bit of coffee and so on. So it's like, this is like grown ups.
Yeah.
So it's say what? Oh, and the good news is, as I said to Jackie, we will be premiering this version of this play on right here at the Well Stage. We don't know when. We'll see when the play is ready for that. We're ready to on the other, but it's going to be there, so get ready. It's a great play for this town. She's hot stuff. Remember that. And finally, in terms of the big occasions, we have also just started rehearsal on this new play. Not a new play, but a new production of this show, K2, which frankly, when I first took over this theater as artistic director 10 years ago, interestingly, the board asked me what my first season would be, and that's, as an artistic director, that's really, that's an onerous problem, your first one out. And I thought a lot about K2, and I decided against it, because it's the kind of play that if you don't get the right people together, I was just coming into a new company at that time, if you don't have all the ingredients just right, it could be a disaster, not theatrically, it could be a disaster. So I put it away and knew that sometime in this company's history we would do the play, and it's about last year as I started looking about the players that we have in place. Obviously, the stage we got out there, I said, you know something, it is time, in this company, anything can go wrong anytime, but I really feel secure as an artistic director that we are ready to handle this project securely. Part of that was knowing that one of the first calls I would make would be to my good friend Edward Morgan, who, as he said, we have been in each other's lives since 1983 at Virginia Stage Company, and I think probably say meet and greet, or how nice is right? Janelle. Could I put you on the spot and talk a little bit about the show and what your thoughts are?
Yeah. Shall I talk from here? Shall I talk?
Is that the talking spot?
Yeah, it's the talking spot.
It's not switch. My God, like it's clear.
Yeah. It wasn't a call, it was a lunch.
Okay.
We meet for lunch periodically. I have family still here, and so I come through. I've been a gypsy for a stretch. I was in Milwaukee for a while, but I still have some family in Virginia Beach. When I come through town, we all meet. I did about 4 shows here, the last one being 5 or 6 years ago. Those of you, 6, I think my first show was with Matt here, on For the Misbegotten. Anyway, Chris asked me, was I interested in doing the play? Because I said yes, and then we moved right to the The next discussion, which is who is designing the set? Because if there ever was a play where the set was a major character, it's this one. And I'll come back to the set and Bill Clark, who's the set designer, who I first met in about 1990 and worked with him in Ohio a couple of times, then in Milwaukee, and then when I did the first show I directed here, To Kill a Mockingbird, that was with Bill Clark as well. So that's fun. But about the play, it's really fun to do what you do, but do it in a fresh way. And as an artist, let me backtrack even one more. So there's a real nice sense of homecoming for me, both in terms of my relationship with Chris, who's a peer and a friend, but also with the theater. I've had sort of 3 rounds of the cycles of my involvement here with this company. I love this building. I love that stage. And I love the sense of returning to this area, which is one of my homes, one of my home areas, and being able to work as an artist. So there's a sense of that that's really gratifying for me, and I've worked with a bunch of you in different ways. So that's nice. But it's wonderful to come back here, but also to work in a new and fresh way. And this is a play which demands a different model. A different model, a different way of working, and that's really exciting. K2 is a play that isn't in the words. You read the text and you go, wow, that's interesting. It's more about the context. It's more about the place where it happens and the conditions under which it happens than any play I've ever done, which is why the set is so important. And part of what makes the process different and what will, I hope, ultimately make the experience so different. K2 is a mountain in the Karakoram mountain range, which is the northwest wing of the Himalayan mountains. It's K2 because the guy first identified the mountains, K1, K2, K3, K4, K5, and it never got named anything else. It's the 2nd highest mountain in the world at 28,000 and some other feet, meters, about over 8,000 meters, about 90 feet shorter than Mount Everest, but far more dangerous, far more difficult to get to, far more difficult to climb. The weather above 15,000 feet is much more unpredictable. It's never been climbed in winter, and 1 in 4 people who try to climb it have died. That's 25%. Whereas on Everest, it's about 5%. So lots of people climb Everest all the time. It's a whole different thing. So K2, by many climbers, is viewed as sort of the mythic mountain to climb. There's a level of myth, therefore, associated with the mountain that's an important part of understanding what this play is about, at least for me. 2 guys on a ledge, sort of at the limit of human possibility, opposites in terms of personality, but best friends, which is like brothers, confronting life and death choices. This is a very primal and basic human experience that I connect to. It's not what they say, it's where they are and death choices that make this a very powerful experience. I've done some hiking, I've done some climbing. It's been a while since I've climbed rock climbing, not mountain climbing exactly. I'm an athlete into sports and all that, and there's a certain amount of thrill or danger or pushing my limits that attracts me. But I have to wonder what it is in the mentality that would cause someone to want to climb a mountain where 1 in 4 people don't want. And from what I understand about maybe my own psyche and what I've read and heard, people who engage in sport at a level where it really is pushing on and risking death is that they arrive at a place where they feel more alive and more than at any other time in their life, and that in itself becomes kind of addictive. I think in part the play is about that kind of experience of being alive. On another level, the play is really about our interaction with the wilderness. I've just done As You Like It in 2 or 3 cities, and that's sort of Shakespeare's exploring the idea of how we look at being in the woods. This isn't about the idea, this is about the experience, which is why, again, the set is so unbelievably important. And this ties me into two things. The people in the Karakoram, the people who live around there, really believe those mountains are alive. And they look on them with awe and a kind of reverence that in this country, first we have to look at the Native Americans for that. And then if we think about Thoreau and John Muir and Aldo Leopold and the whole stream of thought in American thought that is not only about preserving the wilderness, but saying the wilderness can teach us something essential about being alive, about being human. That we live in such a protected, contained environment that isn't really helping us to be in touch with what it is to be human, the basic needs that we have, the basic impulses of who we are. And it's something about being in the wilderness, John Muir being the first and strongest, maybe, American voice, and that, but Thoreau too, certainly, says that being that naked, right, is to be closer to what we really are and aren't. So I tie into that way that the play also becomes about learning how to live, in the sense that the wilderness can teach us how to live. The story becomes about two people and learning how to live, which also involves how to die. Finally, for me, the sort of the other layer of it, and let me preface this remark by saying sometimes as a director you find out the story, the heart and soul of the story and what you want to tell. Sometimes you not until rehearsal you find it. Sometimes you find it before you've ever gone into the casting process. You know what it is you're trying to say, to emphasize, how you want to interpret that piece. But in this case, in the casting process, these two gentlemen were among various who wrote this thing, and we got down to where we had a couple of pairs, possible pairs, in New York, and Chris, said to me, email or whatever, texting, I don't forget how we communicated. Well, it all comes down to really to what story you want to tell. And I realized sort of at that moment, oh, yeah. The story I want to tell is the variation on Cain and Abel. And why around the spirit, this is what we are as artists, things come up and we are crazy enough to listen to them. Cain and Abel is not really a very long story. There's not that much there, but somewhere deep in my psyche and in many of us is the sense of the story about two brothers, and one kills the other, and the one who kills the other is cursed. This is a story about two brothers, and death and life and death are between them too. But in a sense, one sacrifices himself for the other, and the other is redeemed. And so it becomes an inverse or a variation on that. And the sense of brotherhood or the sense of loyalty that's sort of at the bottom of that becomes what about the play I feel perhaps most strongly or most passionately. So that's my big picture thinking about the play, and our job as we work, these two wonderful actors I'm working with, and Matt Saban, our job is to try to allow the story and the words which don't evoke, don't directly say anything about any of all that, resonate in that way. That's our job. To shift gears, my job with the designers was the same. To articulate to them what I think is the soul of the story, and for us to try to create a world, a design world, which likewise resonates in that way. Bill Clark is a wonderful set designer. We did Moon for the Misbegotten, and we did To Kill a Mockingbird. I've done 5 or 6 others, as I said. He designed this mountain. The play is famous, written in the early 80s, set in the 70s, but Ming Cho Lee, one of the legendary designers of the American theater, designed it. Ming was a teacher, and Bill is a protege, more than just a student, but a protege of Ming Cho Lee. So it's kind of a nice homage to Ming, and also sometimes the play has been done abstractly, and Chris rightly knew that Bill wouldn't be afraid to do a variation of what Ming had done, that he's going to go right at what is the best way to tell the story. And for me, a more realistic or believable approach, far more interesting than an abstract one, because I want us, as an audience, the experience to be to buy into the reality of the situation. So we got a real mountain, and we've got real sky. Here they are at 27,000 feet, trapped on this ledge, and we've spent the first 3 days, first 2 days, it'll be 3 days after tomorrow, with half our day in the climbing gym, with these guys learning about rock climbing. We have a wonderful climbing coach who's part of the ODU climbing school. Drew's doing his first climbing, and John's remembering. And we're creating that world right here on this ledge. The play begins with a dawn, and then sort of buried in the snow, and they come up out of it. And it ends, it almost has the classical unities. In the sense, it ends with one guy still there alone, and the light closing as at the end of the day.
Don't tell them which.
Right. I won't tell this guy. Yeah, the props are real. The light will be poeticized, I'm sure, but real. The sound that you're recording will come and spend the last week with us designing a soundscape in the space. And as of Saturday, I believe we'll be rehearsing on the set. Chris wisely scheduled this first so that we could rehearse all on the mountain, because you can't really practice mountain climbing, in a normal rehearsal room, in a normal room. So we will have time, hopefully, to really integrate with this, the other star of the show. And I can't wait for the moment, the first performance. When the curtain is down, we'll maybe have a little mountain showing down below. We won't worry, we'll hopefully cover that with the tarp. And the lights come down, and the curtain raises, and this astonishing world that you can see being created in there is revealed, and we begin this play. And hopefully it will be visceral, theatrically thrilling, and will resonate in the ways or all the themes that I just discussed. Thanks.
And having said all of this, none of this will matter if things fall apart. So I leave that part of the issue in the brave hands of our production manager, Terry Flake.
So, we're going to talk just a little bit, just a few more minutes. They said I could step forward. Taking my direction from over here.
Yes.
Just a little bit about some of the practicalities of making this very realistic mountain and surround with our shop heads. So Jay, let's start with the set. And if you would, come out and tell us just a little bit about the particular challenges, both exciting and daunting, that you guys are working on.
Sure. I'm Jay again, the supervisor. I don't think I could actually handle this at all without the shot that I have in hand with Shane, who's my counterpart, senior supervisor, and Mike, who's done an incredible job. Rob, Brian, Hannah, Casey, you guys are incredible. Absolutely. So the biggest challenge, obviously, is building a functional mountain, right? They have to climb up and down it several times without giving too much away about the play. There are several events that can only happen on a mountain, and the biggest challenge for me is to create something that has a sense of danger, that the stakes of life and death, with not actually being life and death. So that's been this balance. If you want it to look and feel as if you're on this ledge, as if death is absolutely possible without actually getting anywhere near there. So to kind of break it down, we've created a rock gym that we're carving with foam and putting paint on and making these kind of mountain things, and then that's up to Shane and Mike. I built a structure that is huge. I think we're going 36 feet from the deck. So the overall mountain will be about 42, 43 feet tall as it goes down into the pit. And then making a section of which that we can use climbable rock climbing poles for the actors to climb up and down, and do so again in a way that is safe, that the actors feel comfortable with, and that we can do time and time and time again. It's got to last 3 weeks, so it can't just fall apart, and the phone can't go flying everywhere at the same time. That's it.
Great. Speaking of foam, Shane, are
Our scenic designer.
I was supposed to be right.
Supervisor.
What I'm in charge of is doing the finishing, make sure it looks authentic. And in making it look authentic, it's a challenge. But it's rewarding because in the other senses, it's going to be one solid color. They're not used to that. When you turn on these beautiful lights and stuff, you see the scope that we're creating. A 36-foot scope, well, 40-something, 40 something. It's quite impressive, and that in itself is breathtaking. I guess the biggest challenge is being 36 foot in the air with a grinder, with knives, and trying to cut into this mountain. And I think Mike is doing a good job and process helping us with this, and it's going to be pretty gorgeous. And that's all I have to say.
Sam, tell us about props.
Well, the props for the most part are all real and authentic. They are not period to the 80s. I know that was a decision you were fine with early on. Climbing instructor Eric, I thought that was a good idea. So there's a climbing store over on 21st Street that they give him a lot of equipment. We worked out a little bit of a deal, and it's all on its way. Funny enough, the most expensive props, had we used the real thing, would have been the oxygen canisters. The two of those would have come to about $3,000 together. So those will be the only fake props. I have to work those out as props, but yeah, happily they're not actually 26,000 feet up in the air. Yeah. So them's the props.
Let's work our way around. And Carolyn, tell us about lighting challenges.
Yeah, so the lighting for this show is actually pretty simple for us. We are only using about a third of our inventory, which is awesome. But our problem comes into the fact that the mountain is 36 feet above the deck. Our G only goes to 30, so we had to think of some creative ways to get Akeem, who loves me for this, to get to 46 feet up from the deck so that we can actually focus and maintain the lights. But John Ambrosoni, who's a light designer, his design is, I think, going to be really beautiful, just seeing the color choices that he's picked so far. And yeah, we're going to light it from every angle that we can. Every angle.
For those of you not with the company, the John Ambrosoni lit red and Greg Gatsby, which are two of the most beautiful that show.
Christian, can you tell us a little bit about sound challenges?
We're simply going to make you get involved with an avalanche and rattle the heck out of it. Enough said. Boom.
Matt, tell us about costumes.
Costumes, the biggest challenge is going to be keeping these guys cool in everything that they would need to wear to be in the Himalayas. That's going to be a fun challenge. We have a couple of different methods, schemes already planned out, and we'll see if those work in rehearsal, and if not, we'll make something else.
Wonderful. Thank you. It sounds fabulous. I think that Keith and I are a very good leadership partner at the stage company. Every once in a while, we disagree on something. One thing I would disagree about is to say the only thing missing is some of the members of the board, because the other thing is none of this counts for anything without an audience. I mean, there really is a big part of it, and I don't believe you build a mountain and they will come. So luckily, we've got Janelle is our marketing director. She works very closely with Patrick, our associate artistic director, in working new ways of bringing more audiences to the theater and engaging with what we do, other than just putting a poster up on a window. So do you mind taking over the happy place as I come over here and give Betty a kiss because I have it. Hey, how are you?
So you're awesome.
So yes, I've been here for like a long time, but this is my first. I became the marketing director like right at the end of last season. So this is my first like real full season as marketing director, and I'm really excited for K2 to be the first show. And aside from just sort of the regular stuff, newspaper and posters and radio, we're doing a lot of like guerrilla, feet on the ground, fun stuff. So most of what we're doing for K2, we've chosen this theme of adventure, and we're kicking off with K2. And we've called the show an adventure, and people are super stoked about it, which is fun. It's a great show anyways. But some of the things that we have going on, and everything is sort of being installed this week, and it'll all launch on Friday, our season kickoff. But on 14 different buildings, downtown, into Ghent, and in the Arts District, and then we're going to sprinkle them about in the burbs, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach. So we have these high climbers. They're like my size, like climbing the buildings. So they're like these giant decals that are like high up on buildings all around downtown. And then on the ground, like below a high climber, is a big decal of the show logo. And the decal is, you know, I wish I would have brought it with me, but I didn't. It's just like, it's a red circle and it has a mountain and the two climbers on it. And then on the decal, we're doing a lot of things with hashtags this season. So it says hashtag K2Play, and then it has a website on it. So ultimately, like, this public art will direct people to the theater, which is, why else would we do it? So those will be sprinkled about, you know, around Norfolk and beyond. And then we have over 20 restaurants: Nauticus, the Chrysler Museum, Alchemy, the Arts District, City of Norfolk, some hiking and biking trails, all sort of participating in this. Oh, and a brewery. Keith just reminded me. All participating in this big community initiative. So the restaurants are all doing themed K2 items. So we have like chocolate avalanche cake and like Spud Mountain and ice pick martini, like all at all the different restaurants, and they'll all be on this big adventure map that will sort of go through all the places that are supporting K2, and all of the restaurants and partners will also have a big decal outside of those, so they'll all sort of be like identified everywhere downtown by this ground decal that's like a point on a map. And Nauticus is doing a scavenger hunt on the battleship, and the Chrysler Museum is showcasing one of their galleries as like, where does this painting take you? What adventure are you on right now? So lots of different tie-ins with art and the community. It's been really exciting. We're doing geocaching downtown. It's like it's an app, and you go on there and you're like geocaching VSC adventure. And then you follow these clues, like a little treasure box with VSC swag in it. It's kind of fun. And are those all the adventures?
That's most of them. I think so.
Yeah. Yes.
And Janelle has an awesome marketing team.
I
And
do.
Heather and James and Grace, who's our new house manager, and Jeff, who's our new box office supervisor. And what's cool about what they're doing is they're taking the art beyond the theater. Like, I mean, obviously, we're a theater company, we take what we put on stage very seriously. But kind of by making the whole experience from the first time you interact with us on Facebook or through the internet or through calling the box office, and then you do the dinner and all of that stuff. And we're also kind of kicking up opening night parties and all. And we've always had really nice opening parties in development. It's done a really wonderful job with those. We threw some events this summer where we found out people in Norfolk really like to party. And we did a great event in the park, which was a riff on Midsummer. It was called Moon Take That Flight, and every night a large part of the audience ended up in this big dance party. And then we did, right here in the lobby, we did an Uncorked thing this summer, and people had a lot of fun. And there was drag and burlesque and a band and drunk Shakespeare. It was a lot of fun, and it was kind of a different crowd than maybe comes. So how do we kind of keep pulling that crowd in? And some of it is to give them more of an experience, to tease them ahead of time, and then to make sure that and I can't tell you any details of the opening night party we're working on, except
Well, we almost can.
It would be cool. We can tell them.
Yeah.
The band is the James, so they're awesome.
Like things with kick drums.
They do, and horns, and it's like, I don't know, Mountain New Orleans blues. So they're awesome. Anyway, they're way cool. So we're really stoked to have them, and the location's going to be really cool. But
It's not a normal place you would have parties.
yeah, and so we're really, instead of opening night parties being kind of a small private affair, it's going to be a little more of a blowout, and we love that, and it makes it more of an occasion for all of us, and really. I mean, I'm really hoping that people just want to come to our party who don't know they like theater yet, so that they can come to the party, find out about theater, and then they'll see the show. Because they'll be like, I don't know who all those cool people were, but I want to check into that. So even our opening night party can help tell a story about the great art that we do create here. With awesome people like Edward.
And we have our Cultivate interns today.
Yeah, it's on the Google Calendar, so it's small.
And that will sort of fun.
Oh, right.
Sort of music, you know, maybe like Ain't No Mountain.
I guess the four things you might listen to in your office today that you're going to go to the show that night. You know what I mean? So not something that's super serious, but something that has a little subtle dramaturgical development. It's not just about mountains, but maybe like a really cool song that one of those guys would have liked, or maybe some Beyonce. Because I mean, so that's the gist of it. And then the culprit too. Use the hashtags, use the hashtags, hashtag K2 play, hashtag
K2.
VSC Adventure, ready? Hashtag VSC Adventure, hashtag K2 play. So yeah, use those, and it's we're gonna have a great season, and I'm excited about so much stuff that's going on. So join us, and this play is gonna rock, and like I can't say how many of my friends are pumped about it. So keep doing great work. We're excited to have you here, Chris.
And thank you all very much, and for the part of this. This part for us in the lobby. 1983